Hi, welcome to episode 90 of Talk About the Passion. My guest today is Joseph Grillo. Joseph has and is in a number of bands. Garrison, who put out some great stuff on Revelation back in the day, and then most recently Her Head's on Fire and Judas Knife. Last year, Judas Knife put out one of my favorite records of the year on Translation Loss Records called Death is the Thing with Feathers, which they recorded at God City with Kurt Ballou. And that project's essentially Joseph and Drew Thomas, who drummed, with Youth of Today and Into Another and quite a few others, and he's a pretty talented guy. Between the two of them, they made this really cool record that's, moody, kind of dark, melodic, 90s rock. That's, a perfect driving late at night in the winter record. His band, Her Head's on Fire, put a new record out this year. That band's a little more straightforward, melodic punk stuff that kind of reminds me of Sam I Am and bands like that. Their new record's great. It's full of, hooks and melodies, and who can, deny a band named after a line in a Dag Nasty song. If you happen to be listening to this episode, the day it comes out, which is it should be October 18th, 2022, the band is doing a week, I think it's like a week-long run of shows down the East Coast, and as far as the Northeast, they're playing O'Brien's in Allston, Mass. On Friday the 21st, and AS 220 in Providence on Saturday the 22nd. I'm hoping to make the Allston show on Friday, and you should as well. They have more dates as well following those in Brooklyn, Philly, Virginia, Carolinas, down to Florida. And they're active on Facebook and Instagram. If you want more info on any of those shows, just search Her Head's on Fire, and you should find them. This conversation was a lot of fun. Joseph's a great guy, and it's the first time I had talked to him, and we talked about most of all of the musical projects he's been in, but spent most time talking about the aforementioned bands as well as the band For Johnny Depp, which has some amazing stuff out. You should definitely hunt them down. If you're a fan of this podcast, I think you'll dig that music. And I had not even heard that band beyond the name, and I loved it right away. We talked quite a bit about that project as well. And rather than babble on more, let's get to the episode. One more thing. You can follow me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just look for Talk About the Passion podcast and follow me there. And, you can find new episodes and old episodes. And I try to keep those as current as possible. And if you like what you hear, follow the podcast on whatever your podcast listening app is. And we appreciate it. Here we go with episode 90. Thanks for listening. So I am here with Joseph Grillo. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And you just did a show, 2 shows or 1 show in Anaheim?
We did 1 show in Anaheim. Yeah, we've done 2 shows in New Jersey at the Starland Ballroom, which was a blast. And then we had a one-off in Anaheim at the House of Blues.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really fun.
And that's with Saves the Day.
Uh-huh.
Who you share a drummer with?
Share a bass player.
Bass player, okay. Cool.
Yeah, Rodrigo Palma.
Yeah.
Is the bass player in Her Head's on Fire. Yeah.
Nice. And so you're just saying before you grew up in the Worcester, Mass area?
Yep. Grew up in Worcester, Mass. Was in Boston, so I was in Worcester. I guess I made the move to Boston in '97.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was there until 2002, at which point I moved to New York City.
Yeah.
So those were like the time frames and like scene that I was a part of at that point. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And so how did you get into music as a kid in that area?
There was a place in Worcester called the Worcester Artist Group. It was also known as the WAG, right?
Yeah.
And then so my friends Ed and Todd used to drag me there, and it was all new to me and super exciting.
Yeah.
And we would go to like the open mic nights on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And then aside from local bands like the some of the Boss Tones early shows were there.
Oh, nice.
Um, in the late 80s. And I think Dinosaur Jr. played there in 1991, maybe.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Bullet La Volta, a lot of that kind of stuff was
Yeah.
really, really cool to see coming through. And
Nice.
so that was sort of my introduction to independent music outside of like going to see, you know, Bon Jovi or Genesis on the Invisible Touch tour, things like
Yeah.
that,
Stuff
So
at the BC Trum, as they
yeah,
used to call.
yeah, or they what we was the it was the Centrum, right?
Yeah, the
The
Centrum. Yeah.
Centrum. They called it the BC Centrum. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Something when WBCN was sponsoring shows there, they
Yeah.
refer to it as that.
All classic
Um,
rock all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah. I played that WAG place once with, I had a band with, Al Quint.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Him and I had a band when I was a teenager, and we played there, I think, with Eye for an Eye and a few other bands like
It's
in the
fantastic. Did Kingpin play?
Yeah,
Yeah,
possibly. Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, it was that era, sort of like 87, 88. I think it was.
Yeah.
Might have even been
Yeah,
a
I
little later, actually.
that would have been like right about the time that I started to go to shows because I think the first hardcore show I saw was Slapshot at the
Oh,
WAG.
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And then, so when did you start playing music?
Not too long after. I mean, I think, going there and sort of seeing my friends play music and be, in their little basement bands made
Hmm.
me inspired to pick up a guitar. I mean, I was always around music. I was always like doing choir
Hmm.
and musicals and things like that in high school. But,
Hmm.
actually trying to write rock songs and do that, it started 88,
Yeah.
I guess. It didn't take too long of me seeing a couple shows and thinking like, this is where I belong. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us, when we go make the switch from like big arena shows to small shows like that, there's, the age old tale of, you're like, oh, I can do this. These guys are
Yeah.
like approachable. You can go up and talk to them after the show, and then
Hmm.
they're not all decked out and leather and spikes. I mean, maybe they are, but um, but it's, you realize you can do that, and that was one of the best things of just hardcore music, that DIY thing, starting
Absolutely.
with just the basic thing of music, and then once you really get into it, then you're like, wow, we can publish
Hmm.
zines and make our own shirts, and just all that stuff opens up to you. And it's kind of a shame that the mainstream doesn't sort of recognize that, but it's also awesome because it's kind of our thing.
Well, it's such a freeing thing, right? And I think that I think that through line follows, like you can go back to the 70s, you can go back to the 60s. Like it's this idea that you can live somehow, maybe you can live outside of the life you've been spoon fed. I
Right.
mean, and there's nothing wrong with like getting a job at the local bank and
Yeah.
then like eventually being part of a corporation and having a house and kids. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
That's just not for me.
Right. Yeah.
And the I think there's always been this sort of there's certain folks out there that just sort of gravitate towards that. My brother, um, very, very intelligent, wonderful guy, went to Princeton, studied chemical engineering, worked in finance, worked for Visa. That's his path. He's super happy and he finds his joy with what he's able to do. For me, that was never something that seems so insanely impossible to me. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that would be
Yeah. Yeah.
like, why
Yeah.
don't you like climb Mount Everest and then do like 100-mile swim?
Oh, right.
I'd be like, no.
Yeah. So do you remember the first time you got on stage with a band? What that
I
was
think
like?
the first time I got on stage, aside from like maybe a talent show,
Right.
um, I would play acoustic. I'd play like the old Vienna Coffee House in Westboro.
Okay.
Um, it's the first time I actually got on stage with a band wasn't until college. I'd
Mm.
practiced in a band. I had a high school band, but
Yeah.
um, we weren't good enough to feel that we could get on stage. I mean, maybe we did, like one late night get on after everybody else, but
Right.
and then sometimes I would jump into like there was a thing called the Dave Fox band. And Dave
Hmm.
Fox was in a band from Worcester called Today's Trash.
Okay.
It was him and like and he had the Dave Fox band, it was him and his Mike who played drums for Foe,
Mm-hmm.
and he would just do cover songs. We'd get up and do like Ministry. We'd do
Oh,
Thieves,
nice.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then,
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
there'd be like 13 of us on stage. So
That's
it's not
awesome.
like I was doing anything to add to the
Right.
music, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it wasn't until college, I think, that I really started playing shows. And then even after that, it wasn't until probably my second college band, Stricken for Catherine, that I started playing in the scene rather than like
Right.
go to the local bar who has
Right.
like
Yeah.
a cover band and be like, can we play?
Yeah.
And just confuse all your patrons on a Tuesday night.
There is a difference though, right? Like this, it's funny that there's like a club scene that exists that's, cover bands and that kind of thing. And then
Mhm.
this whole other world of shows, um, and with with that band Stricken for Catherine,
Mhm.
were you writing stuff
Yeah.
at that point? Yeah. And you play guitar.
Yeah. I played guitar, sang, and wrote, and that was very collaborative, the four
Yeah.
guys in that band. And I think we were just young enough that we thought we could reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Like,
That's good though. I mean, that's the best. That's one of the best things when you finally click with a group of friends,
yeah.
and a lot of times you'll go back to it and go, "Wow, this isn't that great." But at the time, though, it's awesome.
It was
It's
super ambitious,
yeah, yeah,
and that's what I liked about that band. Like we were willing to try and go places that I don't think a lot of other other peers of mine may have been willing to go. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it wasn't,
yeah.
we didn't get together and say, let's be a hardcore band to have fun and hang out. We
Right.
got together because we loved music and we wanted to take all these different things. We wanted to take Pink Floyd and, you know, Fusion, Miles Davis and Rodan and Slint and Bitch Magnet. And we wanted to put all these sounds together to make something new and unique. That was the goal. Um, you know, whether it did what it's supposed to do
Right.
is not up to me, but up to other people to listen to.
Right.
Um, but that was really fun. That was a good breeding ground for sort of my ideas
Yeah.
and how I could get my idea to fruition and try and explain my ideas to other people, which
Yeah.
is not the easiest thing.
Right. And this is the early '90s.
Yeah, early 90s up until 1990, summer 98, we broke up and Garrison
Yeah.
started. Yeah.
Nice. And I think too that era of hardcore and just people that sort of came from that scene, a lot of bands were stepping away from just the traditional sort of like negative approach, Minor Threat, like that straightforward stuff, and
Yeah,
doing interesting stuff like bands like Quicksand and
of
Soul
course.
Side and Verbal Assault. Well, Verbal Assault was a little older, but
Mhm.
it was cool to hear bands like wanting to progress into different things. And now we have all these different styles you know, and there's a place for that straight ahead hardcore stuff, obviously. But I think it was a lot of it was a reaction to sort of the tough guy
Oh
element of
yeah.
hardcore, which
Yeah.
I like some of that stuff to listen to, but I kind of once that became like a big thing in the scene, I sort of levitated towards the like the later Discord stuff, and
I never understood it. Like
yeah,
it's not that some of the riffs weren't cool, you know what I
right,
mean? It's like it's fun to dance to, but
right,
like the mentality, because they all seemed like jocks.
yeah,
And that's what I was trying to get away from.
exactly, yeah,
So
exactly,
like I never understood why people that come off as pretty intolerant and
yeah,
seemingly quite closed-minded chose to do something in an artistic pursuit. So it
yeah,
always confused me.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um, so yeah, so I never, I was always be like, like why do you make music? Like,
I know,
um,
right?
I
Yeah,
mean that's cool, but like, I get the lifting weights thing.
yeah,
I get that. Like,
yeah.
but yeah, whatever.
I remember a friend of mine had a band out of Vermont called Never Only Once. You ever hear of
Mhm.
them?
No.
It was named after the line from the Into Another song,
Oh, cool.
one of their songs. But they were kind of emo-ish type stuff, and they did a show with a band like that, and they opened. And when that band started, the singer went, "No more love songs." And they kicked into whatever intro or whatever they had. So, but I always thought that was funny. No more love songs.
Hell yeah, man, go for it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
they obviously they make some people happy.
yeah.
Just
So then Garrison starts. How
mhm.
does that band come together?
my friend Ed, who I'd known since we were about 12 years old. We were sort of in complementary epic long song bands. So
Hmm.
I had Stricken for Catherine. He had Iris,
Yeah.
Worcester band, and he had been doing something called The Space.
Okay.
He ran that, and we decided we liked Drive Like Jehu and Rocket from the Crypt,
Yeah.
and we wanted faster, um, work within a little bit more of the pop song parameter, the verse chorus, middle eight
Yeah.
chorus.
Yeah.
So that started like that, and it was really fun, to sort of go down that road and see what we could do within that.
Yeah. And you did a few records, three records,
Hmm.
three
We
full
did
lengths,
two full lengths,
two full lengths.
and well, actually, the last full length, I guess the model and the silhouette were two EPs split, but that should have been a full length. So I guess three
Right.
full lengths, yeah, an
Okay.
EP and like three full lengths and a couple tracks here and there. That
Nice.
was in that, and that ended in '03.
Okay. And you got into Revelation Records.
Yep.
How was that being on that roster?
It it was a double-edged sword because I think that I loved Revelation
Yeah.
because of Engine Kid and
Oh, Engine Kit's
Iceburn
great. Oh yeah.
and Quicksand
Yeah.
and Texas the Reason. So I thought, well, people that listen to those bands will maybe dig what I'm doing,
Yeah.
right? So, but in all honesty, at the time, things go in phases, and when we got back on Revelation, I felt like a lot of people that were interested in Revelation were really into the Youth of Today,
Yeah.
Gorilla Biscuits, Bold, I mean, which is great, but like that wasn't what I was doing. So we got a lot of like sort of, as much as we got some people that really loved it, we got a lot of like, what the fuck, this isn't a hardcore band.
Right. Yeah.
Like we got a lot of that. But but that said, it allowed me the opportunity to tour all over the world and all of the states and put out records that outside of my zip code, so that was awesome. That's like amazing.
Yeah. And you did it right.
Um,
And you worked with J Robbins, right?
yeah, we got
Yeah.
to do a record with J Robbins, that was
Yeah. That must have been
insane.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that felt like we could call him up just that alone, so
And how was that experience?
wonderful. The absolute opposite of the don't meet your heroes axiom. He's 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 better than you can imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard good things about him. And
just a
obviously
just a
his
lovely guy.
every music project he's done has been great too. It's
Yeah,
just amazing how there's guys like that can just spit out all this stuff and it's always good.
I
There's not
mean,
much
they're on
filler there.
another level, honestly. Like Garrison, we did a tour with Burning Airlines, which was Burning Airlines' last tour.
Hmm.
So we did maybe a week, maybe 8 days with them
Yeah.
down the East Coast, and we would play, and we would think, we were so good tonight, guys. We're
Yeah.
so excited. That was great. We really nailed it. And then they would go on, and it would be like, oh, but that's how people actually do it. Like it was just like
Yeah.
a different plane of existence. Like their level of showmanship, their level of musicianship. It was just like, damn, you know, that was great. That was quite what a so fortunate to have experienced that. That was great.
Then you have this project, Gay for Johnny Depp.
Yep.
That's some cool stuff. I had
Oh,
never heard of
thanks.
that one. And I was listening through and I saw that Alex Newport mixed
Hmm.
one of the records.
Yeah, yeah. He's
Um,
great. He was super cool.
and Nick Zampiello, Boston guy.
Zampiello did Ethan Dussault did the recording, and Nick's mastered everything. And then we had one record that was a common thread when I'd moved down to a common friend when I'd moved down to New York City,
Okay.
and he just liked the band.
Yeah.
He was like, please let me. He did it for free, basically. He's like, can I
That's
just
awesome.
mix your record? And it's like, yeah, of course, dude. He's a fun guy, funny guy to work with.
Yeah.
Um, Gay for Johnny Depp was just that was like grown up listening to so much angular music like Ass
Yeah.
Factor 4 and Swing
Hmm.
Kids and Hose Got Cable and Converge. Obviously, you can't escape Converge if you're
Yeah.
outside of Boston, right? So
Right.
so that seemed really easy to me because I didn't have to write a chorus
Mm.
or anything that was memorable.
Yeah.
So so that was fun. And the other two guys, other than the singer, were really into Unwound and all the touch and go stuff. So
Yeah. It's a big touch and go influence there. It's
yeah, and it was just like it was just super fun. And
nice.
then, and then Artie would just throw vocals on it and scream his head off. And we're like,
Yeah.
let's go tour the Europe. Let's go to the UK again. That was fun.
Nice. So you
Yeah.
you toured that group?
A
Oh,
lot, but
really?
only in the UK.
Yeah. Huh.
That band was very successful in the UK. We got to a bunch of festivals. We got to open for some really phenomenal bands, go out and tour with like some great bands. And we'd do like, I don't know, we'd be able to do like the Barfly in London, which I think about like 500 people if we
Oh, wow.
headlines. And
Nice.
so that was actually the most successful bands
Oh, really? Wow.
I've ever done as far as like the genesis of an idea that I had.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I've been in bands that were more successful, but that they weren't necessarily things that were my idea.
Right, right. And when you talk about success as far as just crowds and that kind of thing, but also just realizing a piece of art and having
Yeah,
that happen the
having
way you
it.
can.
Yeah, because like when you're success is like the big term, right? So with Garrison, it was successful in a lot of different ways,
Right.
but it wasn't consistent. So
Mm.
what I mean by that is like the shows, and every band is like this to a degree, but like we didn't have a dependable audience or a draw. Some places we do really well, some places we'd be playing to the sound man, and it just felt like the momentum was always a little bit and then back, like back and back and back and back. And then um Gay for Johnny Depp just went, you know what I mean? Like it was just a whirlwind, super fun. And once we hit stride, we stayed there until we decided to break up, and that's what I mean. I guess everything sort of seemed like it was less in our hands. We were less struggling as much as it was just kind of like a ride that we were on,
Yeah.
you know.
And does Johnny Depp know that band existed?
He's aware that it existed apparently about, I think, 15 years ago. One of our publicists knew his publicist and said, "Can we get a quote?" And he said he was flattered, which makes me think he's never heard it.
Yeah.
That he was like probably like, going through his mail and they were like, and they're like, "Oh yeah, and it's like a band called Gay for Johnny Depp needs a quote." And he was like, "Oh, tell him I'm flattered." And then went back to looking through
Right.
his mail. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Right.
don't think he
Yeah.
ever
Right.
yeah.
Went back to sorting out which thumb
Yeah,
ring
I
he
don't
was going to
think.
wear that day or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That was much more important than whatever song we're talking about
Right.
violating him in.
And the other thing was like the titles of the songs are pretty funny, but the music is, and usually a lot of times you'll see song titles like that, and the music is just kind of silly, but the music is well thought out, and
Thank you.
it's really cool. It's definitely different than what I was expecting.
Well, I like the idea of playing with juxtaposition, and I think it's cool to. I think sometimes you can break through presenting something in a way that people don't expect.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if that band had like a heavy name
Right.
and like we were trying to be cool, I think it would have come off as a little bit contrived and annoying. Whereas because we were so like whatever the fuck, like I think it had a little bit more charm to it, and so maybe people would come at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's the hope, anyways.
Yeah. No, it's definitely yeah, and why do you think that band was bigger in the UK?
I think they get sarcasm really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's just ingrained in their culture that the whole like tongue in cheek thing, and we were so in that world too that I think that it just instantly resonated. Whereas I think in America people were like, "Who now?" You know.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so plus like the UK is such a small, the whole country is the size of New England, so it's like everything catches on there real quick, and then either goes to the next level or is forgotten about. So yeah, I guess I don't know. British people liked it.
That's
Maybe
awesome.
because he was trying to be clever. I don't
Right, right.
know.
And so after that band, uh Is that Judas Knife come after that?
Judas Knife came. Well, no. While Gay for Johnny Depp was going on, I was in my friend Artie, the singer for Gay for Johnny Depp, was in a band on Geffen Records called Instruction. And that was
Oh,
like a
okay.
big radio rock band.
Yeah.
And we would go out with like Linkin Park and
Oh, really?
Korn and
Oh,
like
wow.
Breaking Benjamin and all that stuff. Um, and then those kind of fizzled. And then I did a band called I Hate Her Freedom, which was myself, Tucker from Thursday, the drummer, and Scott from Texas is the Reason. And that was kind of like just kind of similar in a vein of Garrison, like kind of heavy rock with me singing, similar to what Her Head's on Fire is a bit. Um, so then I took a break and had kids. And after 5 years, I started with something called Judas Knife, which is myself and Drew from Into Another.
Yeah.
And it has more members now, but for the record, it's just the two of us.
Yeah. So how did that project come about?
I, we had been in a band. I forgot another band. We did a band called Godfire's Man,
Okay.
with Artie as well, and we'd done some touring together, and we just, we had a nice connection. And he's a really positive guy,
Yeah.
and he really wanted to continue making music in sort of like cool angular ways, because I think that he's done so much stuff since Into Another that he really likes exploring different avenues. And so we wanted to do something a little bit more groovy and psychedelic. And God, he's really fun to work with. He just takes things, we can extrapolate out on them, and really sort of take them apart and look at them from different perspectives, and we can make something that is a lot, sounds like maybe bigger than just two people playing, which is the hope. Um, and so that's really fun. He and I are working on another record now, and then Her Head's on Fire is just a bunch of old pals who used to tour together that decided to make a record.
Yeah. Yeah. The Judas Knife record, I absolutely love. It's
Oh, thank
there's
you.
like a mood created there that just sort of persists through the whole thing, and
Oh
did
man,
a
that's
lot of
great.
thought go into like the sequencing of that record, and
It was written in sequence. Like I'd never done this before, but we knew when we wrote the first song that was the first song, and then the second song, like normally you just jam out ideas and then kind of patchwork together. Like I was like, what should the second song be?
right.
And then they're like, what should the third song be? And then, and then like after the sixth song, we're like, we need something quick and short, and so we wrote that. And then yeah, that was really fun. The whole idea of that is listening to records like T-Rex, where you can put a T-Rex record on and it doesn't matter what song and what part of what song. If it's on when you walk in the room, it's like, yeah, cool. It's like the music you want playing when you walk into a bar. You're like, what's
No, it
up?
really is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
T-Rex. And we were just trying to set a mood for the whole record to be, and so it's not as cool as T-Rex, but it's a little bit like, it's a little bit sad and like, but kind of like, but also has a little dip in the hip too. And you're just trying to create something that's groovy and a little goth, and yeah, that's what we're going for.
Sexy.
A little sexy.
No,
Yeah, a
yeah,
little sexy.
but it definitely has like a little melancholy to it, and
Hmm.
definitely something listen to a lot late at night, or driving at night,
Oh,
and
that's
it's definitely
wonderful,
that
man.
kind of
That's
thing.
that's what it's for. It's a winter record. It's actually not like
Yeah, yeah,
it's a hard
yeah,
record to listen to in the summer when it's sunny outside.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so the process with that was, did you guys write together in like in a room, or?
Yep. It
Yeah,
was he and I, and
yeah,
we would write these long skeletons that when it's just the guitar and drums. I mean, he didn't even know what the vocals were for most of the record until we made it, right? So he had a lot of trust and was like, okay, this part goes 18 times. And then three times it does this, and then it goes here. And we're like, oh, he was like, okay, just listening to the guitar. And so he, because of his musicality, built in a lot of the dynamics and flow and the shifts about how like it kind of comes up here a little bit and then backs down. And so those were my cues when I was doing the bass and the other guitars and all the vocals, was I was trying to read off what he'd done as far as like with the drums. So um we wrote that and then went and recorded it with Kurt Ballou in Salem, right? And Kurt's an old pal from forever ago, so he's really easy to work with too. And
yeah.
That was fun. That was really fun record to
Yeah.
make. It doesn't sound like fun, but it was fun.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many good records have come out of God City.
Yeah, he's got a good he has a really solid innate ability to pull nice things out of people. To make them be like, is that the decision you want to do? How about this?
Yeah. He plays on that too, right? Did he play some guitar on
Yeah,
that?
yeah, he played guitar on the last track.
Okay.
I basically, coerced him.
Yeah.
I was like, dude,
He's
I know everybody asked you to play on the record. I was like,
is
but
that
I don't want you to play like Converge. I want you to pretend you're Dave Navarro.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we listened to Jane's Addiction for like 20 minutes, and then like he's like, how about this? I'm like, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's not the song Her Feathers, is it?
No,
Or her
yeah. Her
Yeah.
Feathers, the last song.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was that song, the guitar solo in that is, I mean, there's a few solos on the record that are really
Right.
the melodies, but that one, I was listening to it again tonight on the way home from work.
Hmm.
Uh, and I was like, just the solo just it's awesome. And
Yeah.
it gives me like a Jane's Addiction, Smashing Pumpkins type
Fantastic.
vibe to it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. It's a great song.
Mission accomplished. Next time I talk to Kurt, I'll be like, dude, you did it.
Yeah. And you did some live shows with,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
so who did you have with that?
so we got a guy named Justin Williams who plays keyboards,
Okay.
and a guy named Chris Enriquez who's a drummer to play bass. Now,
Okay.
Chris was in On the Might of Princes, if you
Mhm.
remember them,
Mm-mm.
and they were both in Gracer.
Okay.
His most recent thing would be Spotlights. He plays drums in Spotlights, if you've heard them.
Uh,
And then Justin is just does all he has Bear Child and a bunch of like really cool different projects, especially even some sort of like pseudo classical stuff.
yeah.
Um, and it's great to get them in because they're such better players than I am.
Yeah.
So it's so nice to have them like it's so nice to be backed up by people that are far superior in their technical ability than I am.
Yeah.
So it's like, he's doing what I played on the record, but he's doing it so much better, you know.
um, did you guys do covers or anything with that with the live band?
God, no.
No, no, just stuff from the record.
Yeah. I mean, well, we
Yeah.
do a cover, we do a Jim Croce cover on the record, right? But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but we haven't done any covers
No,
yet.
no. Um, and then Translation Lost put that record out.
Yep.
That's a good. I had Christian on the podcast at one point.
Oh, right on, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome. He's
yeah, they put out
great.
some. Yeah, yeah, he's a good dude.
I had been out of the scene for a while, so I didn't know what to do. And I gave it, and I was shopping that record around to people, and people were like, yeah, it's cool, but I don't know.
Yeah,
And I reached out to Randy from Cable,
yeah.
and he's awesome. And he sent it to Christian
Oh,
and said,
okay, nice.
I think these guys will do it. And Christian just called me up. Like he didn't know me from Adam, and he said, like, I like this record, let's put it out. Yeah, and like we hadn't played a single show, obviously, because of the pandemic. So yeah, that was awesome that he did that.
Yeah, yeah. It fits in on that, like, because that label has a lot of just cool progressive, not prog rock, but like stuff that's just progressive in the
Yeah,
in
dark,
the literal term. But
brooding. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. And then he's got like some hip hop stuff on there and
Hmm.
straight sort of metal stuff. So it's a cool label. And then so with a completely different vibe is Her Head's on Fire.
Hmm.
So how did that band come about?
That's the completely different vibe is I don't write any of the music.
Oh, really? Okay.
I write my melodies and I
Yeah.
write my lyrics, but Jeff Dean, who was in a band called, I don't know, The Bomb, he's been in so many bands I couldn't list them all. But he and I our bands used to tour together, and we just always remained pals. And he would send me stuff and ask me, hey, can you come up with a vocal idea for this? I'm a little bit stuck. I'm trying to do something here because he's really proficient. He just is constantly writing. And after a couple of those, I was like, man, why don't we just do something? And he was like, okay, that sounds great. And then, it just sort of fell into place. Everybody that's in it was like, oh yeah, I'll play with you guys. So Rodrigo is in Chicago, and Jeff Gensterbloom is an old friend, and he's in New York. And we've officially had more practices, more shows now than we've had practices.
Oh, really?
We had 3 practices. We made a record, and then I think we've had 2 practices, and we've had 7 shows. So
That's
it's
pretty
been just
crazy.
like Yeah, it's fun. I mean,
Yeah,
the thing is, those guys have, we've all been in touring bands for decades, and we've all made so many records and done that thing so many times that it's really, um, it's just so it's refreshingly effortless. It's just because it really is the like getting together like when you're 15 with your pals and having fun. The only difference is that we have enough experience to maybe craft some songs pretty quickly.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you definitely, it's become second nature once you've sort of done
Yeah.
this like a big chunk of your life at this point. Some people don't have time to waste. So you want to make
Yeah.
sure all the free time you get, especially, you have kids,
Hmm.
and the jobs, you know, you're not going to practice 4 times a week like you
Yeah.
used to.
Yeah. I've done all my woodshedding in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the hope too, is like if you're going to be doing, you only have so much time and energy and time again on the planet, right? So if you're going to do something that's going to take you away from your family for any extended period of time, and you're going to do something and put energy and money into this, because obviously nobody's getting rich with this stuff, like
Right.
it better be fun,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
exactly.
know? Because if it isn't, what are you doing?
Right.
You know?
And I think that's when we were talking about success before, that is success, like being able to do this with like guys you get along with and writing
Yep.
stuff that you'd want to listen to and just getting out there and doing it when you can. And yeah,
It's the same
that's
definition of success I had when I was 15, which is just like we get together, write songs, and play a show. It's just the difference is the show's a little bit bigger than the WAG,
yeah, yeah. That's
but
been
that's
sort
about
of,
it.
yeah, it's been like a running theme on here with a lot of people I talk to. They just say, when the success in like the hardcore world or underground world is just forming a band or
Oh,
starting a
yeah.
zine or starting a label. And
It's a hobby, right?
yeah,
Like it's like, I mean, it's artwork, but it's a hobby. Like you know, it's not my living, and it never really was. It was for like a year and a half. Like, but I never, it's not like I went to Berkeley and thought like, oh, I'm gonna be a session guy or anything like that. It was just like, no, I like doing this. I feel better. I feel like I have more of a place on the planet when I do this. Therefore, I should try and do it as much as I can.
and that band. So did you name this band?
I didn't name this one. I
No.
named
Oh,
all the
okay.
others.
Yeah.
I think. No, maybe not Garrison, but
Yeah.
but no, Jeff Dean came up with that. It's a Dag Nasty reference. Um and I just thought, I was like, wow, damn man, that's good. Yeah, keep that. That sounds great.
Yeah. Great band name. So speaking of Dag Nasty, that's from the Wig Out record.
Mhm.
Who who's your favorite singer for Dag Nasty?
I haven't listened to Dag Nasty.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't
Not
even
a,
know. That's it's a shameful thing to say, because like Jeff Dean is such a fan, and I think I've probably heard a little bit of it and I liked it, but I couldn't tell you who sang on what. I know that I read the Wikipedia.
yeah. Yeah.
I know that there were different people, but I can't tell you. I can't give you
Yeah.
an opinion.
Oh,
That's so
okay. That's
shameful to
cool.
say. I'm so not cool.
yeah, people are very adamant about, no, this one's the best. I'm usually, I'm a Pete Cortner fan who
Mhm.
sings that song, the song
Oh, great.
Dag Nasty. So yeah.
Good. You're on our side. Then that's the guy I
Yeah.
like. Whichever
There you
one you
go.
said.
um and so this other, you go sometimes under a pseudonym, Sid Jagger.
Yeah.
And I've seen it spelled with a Y and an
It's
I.
spelled with a Y with Judas Knife. Anytime I get more artsy and more art school, anything I do that's going to sound more art school is going to have the Y,
The
because
Y,
that's
yeah.
more of an homage to
Sid
Sid
Barrett.
Barrett. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything I do that's more punk is going to have the I, because the Sid Vicious. But it's just easier that way. It's I mean, here's something you don't have to deal with. You don't have to have your coworkers Google you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Then you don't. Then you
Yeah.
have to explain. Yeah, I'm in a band.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't like it.
Right.
Like,
I know. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so that makes that process easier. That's the main thing, and it's just fun. It's just fun to have a stage name like Elvis Costello.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And when did you come up with that?
Uh, and when Ed and I were in Garrison, we were just coming up with like different names, and like I was Sid Jagger, and
Yeah.
he was Rory Stark, which was a play on from the old Beatles, like Rory Stark and the Hurricanes, and then our friend from London was Lothario Jackson. Was this Larry Hibbett from 100 Reasons? We
Right.
decided that he should be Lothario Jackson.
Nice.
I don't know, man. When you're in your 20s and you're bored, it's amazing what brilliance comes
Yeah.
out.
And so you guys did a split with J Robbins too.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, and then the full length.
Yeah, the split was just because Jeff. I mean, I'm pals with Jay, but Jeff's in touch with him more because they do a lot of work back and forth at the studios together. And we knew we wanted to do a split 7 inch. And we're actually doing two split because we have another one coming out like in a week or two with Pilot to Gunner, who are old friends too. And he just said, "Hey man, you want to do split?" And Jay was like, "Yep." And it was that easy. And then we did the full length. Well, we recorded everything at once, and then we just decided which song should be on what.
Right. How's the reception been for the band so far?
Above and beyond anything I
Yeah,
could have possibly imagined.
that's awesome.
You
Yeah.
know, but that said, the more we play, um, I it's hard for me to express how much fun it is
Yeah.
to play music with those guys,
Hmm.
and I think fun is contagious. So if if somebody sees it and they have a tenth of the amount of fun that I have playing it, then I can see why they dig it. Because I'm having such a good time.
Yeah, that's that music is very it's upbeat and
Yeah.
yeah, I love the record. It's great. And the reception of the record's been good too.
People have been really, I mean, like, just incredibly positive, and just we've gotten just so many people, total strangers coming out of the woodwork and being like, "Hey, this means a lot to me," or "I can't stop listening to this record," or "This is my favorite record of the summer," and that's an honor, because I know I've listened to hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of records, and there's records that I visit once or twice and I'm like, that's
Right.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But then there's those records that like, oh man, like when I think of that, that's a time period in my life, or like, and if we're that for a couple people, man, that's
That's
what an
awesome, man.
honor. What an
Yeah.
honor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a record you sort of want to keep playing. It's definitely got that vibe to it and a summer vibe. So
Right on.
yeah. And then you guys are playing up here in this neck of the woods in October, is that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Are
Yeah.
you in Boston still?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in Rentham, which is south. Like
Okay.
I'm right on the border of Rhode Island, so I saw you guys are playing Providence, so I'm
Yep.
definitely going to come down and
Right on,
see you
man.
guys. Yeah,
That'll be
definitely.
cool. That's gonna be, yeah, we got on a show at Fest, and so we built this tour around Fest, and we
Yeah.
decided to do it with a couple other iodine bands, and so it's Jonah, one line drawing, so it's
Hmm.
Jonah from Far, and then um Joe from Smoke or Fire, who they were kind of a Boston band for a long time as
Hmm.
well before they moved to Richmond, and
Yeah.
and we just booked this, sort of small little club tour down. We're gonna do O'Brien's in
Yeah.
Boston and AST 20 in Rhode Island. you know, all the cool places, all the
Nice.
fun haunts.
Awesome.
It's going to be weird because we're the only like the other two guys are kind of acoustic. I mean, like Jonah plays with a R2D2, like his little like kind of drum machine
Oh yeah,
program
yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I haven't seen Joe live, but I know it's a solo act, right? So we're the only rock band. Well, there's going to be an opening band for every show that we're gonna very very humbly borrow their gear. But yeah, I think that'll be kind of neat actually. Because I think we all appreciate songcraft. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. And do you find it's easier nowadays to sort of promote live shows and music now that there's all this social media?
It's easier in the way that you can have access to a lot more people, but it's harder in the way that there's so much competition. So, people are just bombarded with bands and music and shows that might, because of some algorithm, they're gonna see it, right? So yeah, that's the hard thing is, and it's like a short attention span culture, so it's hard to stay. when we were kids, like if you heard Fugazi, they were your favorite band for the next 10 years, not just like 2
every time
months,
a new
right?
one came out, you
Yeah.
buy it.
So that's like those days are gone. So
Yeah.
it's just trying to stay in people's heads.
Yeah,
So,
I know. As a musician, that's gonna be tough to do that. And then just as like a fan of like, me who's like, on Facebook, will be like, hey, you guys should check out this band and put a video up and, hope that people will dig it, or, and then you get kind of
yeah.
bummed out when nobody does. You like, because
Yeah, of
you're like,
course.
hey, you would really like this, but they're also dealing with their day and they're not going to see it. They might miss that you posted that
Well,
one
you know
thing,
what
and
it
then
is, and that's the thing, right? Like so it's one thing to post something, right? And I've definitely found some things because pals of
yeah,
mine have posted stuff, but
right,
it's another thing when you're 16 or 17 and you're all in a car
yeah,
and you're driving somewhere and you go, "Hey man, check this out." And you put
yeah.
a
There's a
record
tape.
on
Yeah,
and everyone is basically the windows open, summertime, and
yeah.
they're just like experiencing life together
Together, yeah,
and you're listening together rather
yeah.
than being like, "Oh, I'm just getting home from a work day. I
Nah.
guess I'll check out that link he sent."
Right, right. Yeah, and play it while
Um,
you're cooking dinner or whatever.
yeah, and so that's like, so it's a different experience of, and I think a lot of art it's so intertwined and married to the experience that you have when you hear it, because I'm sure the same as with you that there's certain records that you can remember the moment you heard them, where
Oh
you
yeah,
were,
yeah,
what you
yeah.
were doing. And it's not that like 100 records just as good have
Right.
come out since then, but the fact that that one resonated with you, right time, right place,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that that's so important. Like if you get the chance to be played on somebody's car while they're driving with friends, man, that's the best.
It's cool too to see now younger kids are now buying vinyl again too, or buying
It's
vinyl.
dope. Yeah.
Because that was how that's like you were just saying, like our friends would, you'd be like, hey, so and so got the new Fugazi, and then you'd all go over their house and listen to the Fugazi. Some of them maybe
I
tape it, and
hope, man, I hope
you
people
know,
are doing that, like active listening, like because
yeah,
for a while the only time people listened to music is when they were playing like the snowboarding video game
yeah, yeah,
on their Xbox, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
and if I'm doing anything other than actively listening to music, it's just washing over me, and I'm not paying attention to, oh, this like I can't write emails and listen to music. I have to just let it permeate.
yeah. I have to like when I'm at work, I always have Spotify on or something like that, just playing
Hmm.
playlists. But a lot of times, if a new record comes out, I'm not going to listen to it there because I'm
Right.
answering the phone and writing. But yeah, and if I'm writing, I'll listen to jazz or something instrumental because
Right.
it'll
Something that's
just
just
get in
kind of
my head.
floating, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've recently, well, not recently, the last few years, started buying records again and
Hmm.
started experiencing that, like shutting everything off, putting the phone in the other room and holding a record and listening to it. And there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. It's such a cool thing. I have a thing now where like with my pals, I won't, even when the record goes up on Spotify, maybe I'll listen to the single when it comes
Yeah.
out, but if I pre-order it, I don't listen until that vinyl
Yeah.
comes.
Yeah. I do that
I
too.
like
Yeah.
consciously won't. And then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
sit down and then like, cause that's how I want to experience it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking out the time to talk, man. This has been
Absolutely.
a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing this and getting in touch and reaching out.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll keep putting out more music that you don't hate.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I'm sure you won't. So it's
All
all
right.
been good so far. So
Awesome, man. Thank you so
awesome.
much,
All
Christian.
right. Take care, man.
Bye bye.